First it was districts, then states. Now the entire world order is at risk. We're putting the powerful who weaponize their privacy protections on the couch. Dianne Feinstein's office quietly reorganized around her decline, having an aide walk with her everywhere she went to make sure she was never left alone with a reporter. Thad Cochran, 40 years in the building, got lost on the way to the chamber, 20 feet away. He had to be turned around by an aide. This man led the committee that wrote the federal budget. Another congressman vanishes from his office for almost 4 months without explanation, but he was never too absent to keep trading stocks. None of them resigned, none of them were removed, and no one said why. Just silence. And that silence says so much. This is how power insulates power. 4 figures, both parties, 3 decades, absent from the duty they were elected to hold, and no one made them account for it. And it's happening again, right in front of our eyes. By the end, the card will tell you exactly who's left out in the cold. Welcome to the World on the Couch, where we put the daily news cycle through a psychological lens, because that's the part the news almost always misses. I'm Dr. Marlene Ryle. I'm a psychologist and a psychoanalyst, as well as a psychiatric nurse practitioner with 30 years of experience in the field. Let's start with Congressman Kane from New Jersey. His last vote was March 5th. Back on the floor, June 30th. In between, 116 days, 140 roll calls, and a district of 700,000 people with no vote in the House. He kept the seat. He just stopped representing anyone but himself. The office didn't go quiet, though. Bills kept going out under his name. Speeches were entered into the congressional record. Staff cut the ribbons and worked the graduations. The accounts posted like nothing was wrong. He ran unopposed in a primary he never campaigned in and won it without being seen, photographed, or filmed once. A whole working congressman was manufactured out of whole cloth, while the actual one was somewhere no constituent could reach. And he wasn't too incapacitated for everything. Throughout the whole absence, his personal stock trades kept getting reported right on schedule. The machinery of his own interests ran fine. It was the machinery of representation that stopped. Then re-election loomed, and he ended his silence with a floor speech. He was being treated for depression. Now, depression is not the clinical parlance for something treated on an inpatient basis for months. That would be a major depressive episode named by its severity and its course. The gap between the word he chose and the care he described is worth sitting with. 116 days his constituents paid in silence, and the accounting came due the week his own name went back on the ballot. Here's where absence turns to hypocrisy. His first act back, a bill dated the day before his return, was to put enforcement teeth on the mental health insurance parity, penalties for insurers who cover the mind less than they cover the body. It was nearly line for line a bill that had been introduced a year earlier, already carrying a Republican co-sponsor. And it was left to sit in committee by Kane's own majority the entire time he was well enough to push it and didn't. He supported the law that cut health funding, though. He opposed paid sick and family leave, the protection that catches a working person who misses months of work and would otherwise lose the job. He kept the salary. He kept the seat. A constituent who disappeared for 4 months would have lost both. Care is a right when it's his. It's a luxury when it's yours. Watch what everyone around him did too. The speaker knew the diagnosis in late May and kept it quiet at the congressman's request. The party asked him to account for, well, nothing. It announced through 4 months of an empty seat that the district had been well served, and the one tool that could have let an absent member vote from a distance had been dismantled 2 years before, so the seat could not even be filled by proxy. Every door that protected the man stood open. Every door that protected the district slammed shut. That's the whole pattern in its smallest and cleanest form. From here, the seats get bigger and the silence get louder. Now the situation escalates. A congressman represents one district. This senator represented one of the largest states in the union and held a vote on the federal courts. By 2020, Dianne Feinstein's office had reorganized itself around a decline it would not name. She was always with a chaperone and never left alone with a reporter. The work went out under her name, though the people managing her were making some of those decisions. An aide said aloud what the building already knew. She could no longer do the job. She sat on the Judiciary Committee, which confirms federal judges. When she was unable to function, that means the committee stalled, and so did the confirmation of federal judges. Members of her own party, as well as the opposing party, never called it out. They all went along with the charade. Now, maybe this was because she had decades of earned respect. Maybe they felt it would be unkind to question a woman with such a distinguished legacy. So no one did. Now a Republican again, and this seat is bigger than the court. In 2017, Thad Cochran, 40 years in the building, got lost on his way to the chamber, which was only 20 feet away. He had to be turned around by an aide. On the floor, he had to be told how to vote by an aide because he almost voted the wrong way. Now, this man chaired appropriations. Appropriations writes the number on federal spending, trillions of dollars, the entire ledger of what the government funds and what it won't. Here again, both parties said nothing. His own said the seat was well served and managed the evidence that it wasn't. And it was an open secret that he could no longer function on his own. His staff ran the votes and worked the appearances. The party changes, the office changes, the decade changes. One thing that never changes is what's withheld, the information that would let a voter decide. Now the next seat is the same silence, live, with no ending in sight. We know how it ended with Dianne Feinstein. We know how it ended with Thad Cochran and Tom Keene. We know how they ended because they're in the past. This one is still happening. We didn't have to guess about Mitch McConnell's health. We saw the freezes, the ones where he just stopped mid-sentence until somebody brought him away from the microphone, the falls, more than one, and a cat coming in with a hairball. The falls were over years. The bruises on his face that no one explained, the wheelchair. It's a documented record on public, in camera, over years. So when he went to the hospital, the question wasn't idle. His office, though, wouldn't tell us why. What the public knows, it knows from a leaked 911 call. A cardiac arrest at his address and CPR in progress. His office has never confirmed it was him. The emergency channel told us more than his own staff would. Ask them now, and you'll get the same line. He is recovering, engaged with the business of the office. They won't tell you what's wrong with him. They won't tell you whether he's coming back, and he did say he was going to resign in January. Every case before this one, they withheld the information, but it surfaced eventually, after the seat was filled. But this one's still sealed. We're still standing outside while it happens. They didn't disclose. And because they didn't disclose, nobody could say anything. Here's where the exploitation is. The protections are real. Medical privacy, the restraint around statements about a public figure's illness or health that they haven't examined. But they've turned these restraints into shields. We can't speak to a condition that they won't tell us about. When they deny there's one in the first place. That's the weaponization of privacy. It's not about the illness, it's about the silence around the illness. And that silence isn't held by one person. No one inside stays inside, because everyone with the power to open the seat closes ranks around the person and not the seat. They protect the incumbent, not the office. Both parties, every single time. So in this case, those safeguards didn't fail. They were captured. And now take that mechanism of vacancy no one will confirm, the party that protects the person over the seat, and put it into the one chair where the currency is in a stalled confirmation or a spending bill or even a lost single vote. In this case, the currency, it's irreversible. Every rung on the ladder so far stayed inside the building. The district's votes, the committee's judges, the nation's ledger. The failure was contained, and the republic held around it. This one doesn't stay in the building. This one has already reached the world. Watch Trump move, and the dysregulation is on the surface for all to see. The gate that won't hold a line, the speech that slips, the wrong word delivered with confidence and conviction, the sleep that takes him in the middle of a cabinet meeting or in the middle of the July 4th fireworks. This is a psyche under load, and under load, it does what foreclosed psyches do. It stops metabolizing and starts discharging. It reaches for the grooves that are already cut, the old grievances, the vanity projects, the same names, because the structure that would let it hold something new can't bear the tension of it and isn't driving the work anymore. The currency here is irreversible. April 7th, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. A vow of erasure, 90 million people, timed to his own deadline. And when it was over, the officials said that the post was an improvisation, that they hadn't planned any of it. That's the whole diagnosis of the moment in one fact. The most irreversible words a commander-in-chief can speak, fired not from strategy, but from impulse, and explained afterwards as, well, it wasn't really the plan. This is what an ungoverned interior looks like, and when it sits behind the codes, we have a problem. He's not deliberating and deciding. He discharges, and then it gets managed after the fact. The pattern holds everywhere you look. The deal announced at least 38 times against a partner who kept saying there was no deal. The same wish fired over and over again, as if repetition would make it real. The threats that exceeded the moment and then got walked back. He even inverted the board. The adversary who chants death to America actually came out of the exchange looking steadier than us. That takes a specific kind of dysregulation to accomplish. And the record that would let anyone check? Sealed. Same as before. He had 22 specialists present at his last physical. He was said 2 words, excellent health, 22 specialists in 2 words. And the names, the specialties, the reasons they were there were behind closed doors. A congressional demand for them refused. Kane's silent office at an apex scale. In all the other cases, the failing office or the absent person from the office could be rooted around. But at this level, at the top of the executive branch, all the nodes root through it. When the withholding happens here, there's nothing else to root around, at home or abroad. And the one instrument built for exactly this, the 25th Amendment, Section 4, roots through his own appointed circle. The mechanism for incapacity depends on the people the door protects. It has never once been used. At every rung, 2 doors stood open and neither was used. The first is the exit. All of them could have stepped down. All of them could have stepped down for any reason at all. No disclosure. They didn't have to talk about their condition. They could just say, I want to spend more time with my family. The second is removal, censure, expulsion, impeachment. The mechanism built precisely for the seat cannot be vacated from inside. Madison wrote that ambition must be made to counteract ambition, that the system's safety lay in each interest checking the next. Invert it. When ambition protects ambition instead, when the party's interest is served by holding the shape of a functioning member in place, there is no check anymore. Every corrective the design provided goes unused because using it served no one holding the power to use it. At the apex, this door narrows even further. The 25th Amendment has never been invoked for incapacity. Impeachment becomes the only real remover, and it roots for the same body that at every rung below chose the incumbent over representation. And now the tarot card. I'm using a card from the Enchanted Tarot deck, and it's usually a little sweeter than many of the cards, but in this case, this one was really apt for today's episode. It's the 5 of Pentacles. Now, this doesn't look the same as some of the other, like the Rider-Waite 5 of Pentacles, where you've got the 2 people outside of a church with a fire burning inside. This one looks a little more official. We've got these 2 figures hunched in the snow with an official looking seal and a building behind them. Notice there's no door. This is a colder card because there's authority behind them, but there's no way in. There's nothing to knock on, no door. That's the picture the whole episode has been working towards. At the first rung, the 2 in the snow are 1 district. 700,000 people with no vote in the House, standing outside a sealed office. At the state level, rung by rung, this wall rises. And now, in Feinstein's case, 48 million people? No representation. And now the figures are 90 million people, possibly the entire world, who've been told they couldn't survive the night. And behind them is all of us. Outside a sealed interior that has already acted on the world. Now, this card doesn't predict what will come next. It says what's already true. This is the cost. Laid down in the cold. It's all of us standing outside with no way in. The safeguard was supposed to be the door. They sealed it shut. And they called the seal a protection. Thank you for watching The World on the Couch. I'm Dr. Marlene Ryle, and the couch is always open.